Welcome back to OneHourAppSec. My name's Laura Belmain. I'm going to be your coach and guide for all things application security that you can complete in just 1 hour per sprint. We estimate that 75% of the code that we deploy out into the world right now wasn't written by us. It was written by other people. And that's okay. That's sufficient. We've talked about this in other videos. That's not a problem, but we need to be aware of it. Now, in Sprint 5, if you have participated, you will know that we check our libraries and frameworks before we put them into our stack to make sure that we have considered them from a security perspective. But that's not where our responsibility ends, because sadly, security, much like software development, is an evolving space. And so we need to make sure that we are keeping in touch with our dependencies, those technologies that we've chosen to use, and making sure they continue to be safe to be used over time. That sounds like a lot of work, right? And I'm afraid it is kind of a bit of work. But let's dig into this, why this matters. So why does software change with time? Well, you know this. You know this because you write software. So let's talk it through. Let's think it through together. The security of our third-party dependencies changes over time because code changes. Unless you've chosen a library or framework that has stayed the same for the last 5 years, and to be honest, if you've done that, there's probably bigger problems afoot, then almost everything that we do gets updated. So you might download version 1 of a library or framework today, and in 2 months' time, they release 1.2 or 2. And it's our job to make sure that we're monitoring, looking for these changes, and then upgrading where we can. Now, I know that choosing to upgrade is a difficult subject, and we're actually going to do a whole sprint on that. So don't worry, come back later. But for now, let's talk about what changes and why we need to care, because it's very easy for us to say, well, all these changes to our dependencies are new functionality and we don't need that functionality. But that's not entirely true, is it? Think about the reasons you change your code. Sometimes it's to add new functionality. That's a really good day. We get, blank slate, new functionality, yes. But on many days, it's not that. It's a bug fix for this. It's a security fix for that. It's a weird edge case that we had forgotten about that we needed to add in. So we can't just ignore changes to our libraries and dependencies. And we have to make sure that we're aware of why they're changing and what we need to do as a response. Now, the reasons they can change are security related. So one of the reasons that a library may update is that somebody somewhere in the world, it could be the company itself, it could be the software's authors, or more likely it's somebody else out in the world, a security researcher or similar, they found a problem. They found a security flaw, a vulnerability that may mean software using that component is vulnerable too. Now, because our vulnerability research community are continually working on this, they're always looking for new software, they're always exploring and playing and experimenting to try and find bugs. It's a moving feast. That means that even though our dependency might be completely safe to use on the day that we choose it, in 3 weeks' time, a vulnerability researcher somewhere might find a bug, and then we need to respond. Now, this isn't as straightforward, unfortunately, as saying, hey, they told me there was a security bug. The open source project said, hey, there's a security flaw, you should update now. Sometimes that happens. It's incredibly rare. Most of the time, security changes are bundled in with other things. We may not know that it's a security flaw that has been found. And there are very few obligations out there on our projects, on our third-party systems, on our systems that require us to notify others of security problems. So what we have is software that we've chosen to use that is written by someone else that can be updated at any point for any reason. And it's our job to understand what has changed. Should we respond? Spoilers, probably yes. And how to do that. And to identify in all of this noise, in all of this mess, if a security vulnerability is in there. That feels like a lot of work. Now, to make it even worse, last time when we were choosing a dependency, we were just looking at one library or framework. Now, when we're doing the ongoing maintenance part, then you've got to do it for every single technology that you've pulled in. So now we've talked about this before in terms of library sizes and things making a difference. It doesn't really matter whether you have 10 dependencies or whether you have 100. Think about it as lines of code. Think about it as exposed space. So if you have only 2 or 3 very large dependencies, That could be tens of thousands of lines of code that you need to protect. And if you've got much smaller dependencies, so JavaScript libraries are very commonly very small, then you've still got hundreds of thousands of lines just spread over lots and lots of files. And every single one of them has to be monitored, and every single one of them then has to be managed and updated. I hate being the bearer of bad news, but we need to make this manageable. So come back to the other videos in this sprint, and we're going to have a look at a couple of the ways that we can do this. We'll look at the manual way, and we'll look at some automated ways. All right, so as always, if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and share it with the world. I do appreciate people spreading the 1 Hour AppSec message. It means a great deal to me. And if you know of somebody else who's building software anywhere in the world who you think could do a little bit more AppSec in just 1 hour per sprint, then please feel free to spread the word and share the message with them. Okay, check back for future videos, and I will see you soon.